Well, hello. How's it going? Good evening, everybody. It's me, Comic Crack, and it's Sunday, and the microphone is working, and it's Sunday. Time for kind of a look at the stack of stuff that I read this week. I actually read a fair bit, intermittently, as I was going through stuff. A lot of talk about off the top too. I wanted to talk. Like physical media, I guess, and kind of the love of that. I went this afternoon. Actually, maybe we'll build to that. So I wanted to give a shout out to Mr. Grux himself and the mysterious entity known as Commode Minstrels in Bullface. There's a new DVD out of some new noise and some new imagery, and you can buy DVD copies from the KVivo web store, which I will show you in just a minute. But he was kind enough to include kind of an early promo, I guess, of this, and I watched it and I loved it. Really enjoyable. It was sent in. It was burned onto another disc, which threw me for a second. So shout out to Fletcher as well, to Fletcher Pratt, who put together a package for us. There was a shirt in there for my son from the God Waffle Noise Pancakes long sleeve. So he was wearing that today. Looks sharp. And then Fletcher threw in a couple of cassettes for me as well, too, which I really appreciate. But it got me thinking of kind of this, again, like something that's always been kind of on my radar is just people making their own things and then helping distribute and sell other things as well, to kind of turn you on to something that you may not be aware of. And back in the days of like tape trading and especially VHS trading, I've still got a stack of stuff where I was heavy into trading live shows with people. So you'd get the two VCRs going and you dub whatever live shows you had, have a list, communicate with people, and trade that physical media. And it was a blast. And it eventually led to things like there was Shocking Videos, I think is what it was called, on I think the site was Revenge is My Destiny, maybe was what I can't remember if the website was Revenge of My Destiny and the company was Shocking Videos or vice versa. But that was a fantastic resource. There's a whole lot more. That's just the first one that pops into my head. And an immediate second is what's now known as DVDR Party, which I'll share the screen here. Let's see. So in amongst this world of kind of noise guys and these experimental musicians, there was DVDR Party, who went by other names throughout existence, and who's put together a huge amount of stuff over the years, and a number of things that I've ordered directly from them over the years. Right now, they have a sale going on. Enter Stay Home Watch DVDR and check out for an extra 20% off. It's a fantastic website, and right off the bat, we see the infamous. Where is it here? I still have it. Yeah. I know I'm small in this screen, but the infamous mask, and this is something I got from them quite a while ago. I can't remember what website they were working under at that time, but it was the first time that I saw the mask. I now have it on Blu-ray as well. There was kind of an official release, although I believe the Blu-ray release doesn't let you actually watch it in 3D. It's one of those where if you have a 3D TV, you can see it. But this is an infamous Canadian movie. It was, I think it was considered the first, our usual conversation of how everybody loves to be considered the first. This was the first 3D movie, apparently. It's an absolute classic. 1961 is when it was from, and extra kicker is that it was indeed Canadian. But DVDR Party has a ton of fantastic stuff. Strongly encourage you to even just go and browse and just see what's out there. It really does feel like a bit of a throwback era with this type of kind of bootlegs and unofficial and semi-official and all sorts of things, right? Almost like the days of mixtapes where people would just put compilations together, which I didn't pull out for this particular chat, but I've got a bunch of that stuff too. Hypnotic Eye being a big one. There was a bunch of others as well, but just a real nice. I love getting physical media. There's just something about it. I know that it's the internet and you can download and you can see all sorts of stuff. I get it. I understand that people are squeamish about this kind of thing. I get it. Then this video isn't for you. So exploitation, what other names do you need other than Russ Meyer and Doris Wishman? Doris Wishman, one of my favorites. Art House, Damon Packard, who's still doing stuff now. I follow him on YouTube as well. He's still around. And then you get like music. And the one that was the most important to me here was the discovery of Scopatones, which I had only heard a little bit about from a friend of mine at work, but I'd never actually seen any. And again, going back to the stack here, where's my Scopatones? I only have one of the volumes, volume 3. Again, picked up a long time ago, but incredible stuff on here. This was the first time I heard Timmy Euro with a fantastic song called If. January Jones with a track called Lazy River is a standout on this one. Who else is a standout? I haven't watched this forever. Everything is so good on this. The Kessler Sisters was a good one too, I remember. And of course, what the heck was her name? I'm scanning. I'm not prepared for this. Anyway, there's a lot of people on here. Lily St. Cyr is on here. The Hondells, Sea Cruise, that's a pretty good one. Bernice Olive, Les Surfs, Jimmy Castor, Bunch, Nancy Holloway, etc., etc., etc. Just chock full of amazing stuff. So Scopatones, this was the first time I'd heard of Scopatones. So an early, a precursor to the music videos and sort of a jukebox style. So apparently, where's my cursor here? Why isn't this moving? There we go. This is what the machine looked like on this volume 6 cover. So you would go and you would punch in a song and you could watch basically a music video. I'm guessing that it would act like a jukebox and the whole place could hear the song, but you could watch the video. Really, really great. So if you don't know Scopatones, I encourage you to check them out. And no better way to check them out than DVDR Party. Sword and Sandal, TV stuff, midnight movies, kiddie matinees, etc., etc. So check out that site. And then I wanted to point you also to, let's get you this one. So this is where the Pit of Infinite Shadows is the Cave Evil crew. It's their website. And you can find on here the Commode Minstrels and Bullface DVD for $17. Demonian Abyss Broadcast, Twisting Glit Fork, and Petrified Wood Cookie Frequency. And we'll just show you some of the art in here as well too. So a bunch of AI created art as well, but full-blown noise musicianship. Really, really good stuff. An absolute blast to sit and watch. I think I watched it kind of that day that it came in. But for the Cave Evil website, there's all sorts of things. So because they specialize more in kind of RPGs and board games, you can find a lot of that stuff here. They've got Rotten Shape, which is kind of their tape label, where they release all sorts of music on both cassette and CD. Worth a browse for sure. Todd Barton, really, really great. I subscribe to him on YouTube as well too. He does some amazing stuff. So you can find all sorts of music there. And then of course, same thing, movies, comics and zines, all sorts of things, shirts, and even original art. So a Holy Mountain t-shirt, which is something I've had my eye on for quite a while, but it's a little steep for me right now. All sorts of Cave Evil stuff as well too, as well as some band shirts too. So support these guys, go and check out these websites and support these guys and try out something, you know, pick yourself out something. So much stuff out there, even though Everything is available all over the place now. It's nice to just be able to go to the shelf and pick something up. It's great to get something in the mail and pop it into the player and see what the hell you've bought. I just wanted to also kind of, while we're on this train, when the pandemic hit and there was all these online festivals, with the help of DVDR Party, Grux and crew put together some amazing sets of performances. So everybody would kind of record a performance or play it live and submit it to the festival, and it would get broadcast. All of those performances were collected on a bunch of different discs. I got to perform a couple of times during this time, and it's really amazing to have kind of a hard copy of that and just kind of rewatch. My son and I were watching these live as they were coming out. Everyone comes with some amazing art as usual. Really cool package. And then kind enough to, when DVDR Party kind of sent out the artist copies or whatever, threw in some extra stuff for me as well. So now I've got more than enough 3D glasses to watch all sorts of stuff. So amazing to just have this stuff and to be able to throw it back on, because I don't think you can find most of these online. And then there's one of the freebies thrown in, Kamen Rider, Amazon complete series, really great. That was also the fun part about those live streams, is they would play a lot of kind of clips before the show, and then you'd get into the show. Sometimes there was like an after show where they'd show some more clips from movies and TV and art and stuff. Big box of Evil, a bunch of Damon Packard's Big Box of Evil. I'm not exactly sure what he had to do with this. I'm not super familiar with Damon Packard himself as far as his film career goes. I know he's directed a bunch of movies. I assume that he's worked in film. I don't know if he worked in kind of editing. I just don't know his history that well, but this is something that my son and we still actually haven't finished it, which is also good pulling this off the shelf. We watched a couple of those, but where I first kind of heard, and then this was another more recent one as well too, Christmas Party. So this was from Chthonic Crystal Video, which is the Cave Evil guys that we looked at their site there, the Pit of Infinite Shadows 2022 special Christmas edition. Really great, actually. It was a lot of fun watching that. When I first kind of got involved in all this stuff and heard about all these noise artists down in the States there, part of the joy for me, hello Daryl D, part of the thrill was to kind of find that some of these artists had DVDs themselves, and they were releasing kind of live performances or stuff that they had filmed, whatever it was. So when a lot of that, there was some available on YouTube, but again, it was still at a time, because I think, did we move back? We must have. So it was early 2000s. So I'm sure there was a bunch of stuff available online, but not exclusively. And it felt like some of these artists that I was interested in, I wasn't finding a lot of their stuff. So to be able to kind of order these DVDs and get them up to Canada and see some of these performances at home, because I know I'd never get a chance to see any of them live. A lot of these people don't end up touring a lot, and especially coming to Canada. That's just always been a thing of artists coming to Canada. This is Rubber O Cement. It was just such a amazing thing to be able to see some of this stuff and to get kind of a more full picture of what they were doing. One of my favorites, though, has got to be the Fairy Tale Favorites, Harryhausen's 3D animation magic. So there was a series of live performances where people did live soundtracks to some of these stop motion, and it's incredible. A standout for me is Hans Grussel's Cranking Cabinet. I'm a huge fan of Hans Grussel. This also has Tarantism, Loach Fillet, Head Boggle Domo, Krob, the Brand Paws, and Hans Grussel are all on this. So doing live soundtracks to these short stop motion films, and it's still one that I watch to today, and I still really think it's really amazingly done. That's all that I brought downstairs. I've got a bunch more upstairs, but I just kind of grabbed a little handful to kind of show you. So we talked about this stuff. So DVDR Party. I'll put links in the description to all of this stuff. Definitely go and check them all out. Like I said, even if you just browse the site, please pay him a visit. So on that note of how exciting it is to see physical media, Daryl, it's nice that you're here because you're going to love this. I was thinking of you this afternoon. Late last night, I always end up every once in a while throughout the day, even if it's for 30 seconds, I usually do a quick scroll on Facebook Marketplace. It's just part of my habit. Lately, I've been looking for stuff for my wife for, she has a dolly to help her bring her stuff in, but it doesn't have that wide of a base. So I was looking up for some platform dollies for her, basically, that fold up and can still fit in her car, but where she can stack a bunch of shit on. So she only needs to make one trip as opposed to back and forth if we're not there to kind of help her and she's unloading by herself in the middle of the night or whatever it is. She can do one load as opposed to 5. So I'm kind of been back in the habit of scouring Marketplace. And last night, just before I went to bed, like 1 a.m, I saw one that was posted, I don't know when, sometime earlier that night, of a comic collection in town. And this person put a video at the beginning of their kind of listing. So the first, I don't know, it's like a 30 or 45-second video. And looking around the room at all the boxes, there was, I don't know how many boxes, 40 to 50 boxes possibly, somewhere around there. And not looking at the stuff in the boxes, but you can always see, because they weren't full to the brim, you could see kind of the first book in a number of boxes. I saw a Crumb book. I think I saw a Corbin book. I think I saw some underground comic, Oat Willie, I think I saw. So there was a few books in there that I saw. I'm like, ooh, this might be something interesting. In my mind, this was going to be a collection that was mostly mainstream stuff with maybe a smattering of some undergrounds. And I also saw some European stuff. I can't remember exactly what Necros, maybe. What the heck is that one called? I think it's called Necros. Yeah. So I saw some. So I figured I'd go and check it out, thinking that I was mostly going to be disappointed, but hey, maybe there's going to be some stuff that I can maybe try to pick out. So in the listing, it said they were looking to sell it all as a collection, but they're also willing to sell the comics by the box. So I thought I should get some money together. So the stuff that I had in the house for sale that I've been kind of slowly trying to sell, I just took them to a couple of places in town here and sold them all. Made a couple of $100 to put in my pocket and go down to check it out. I had to make an appointment to go and see them. And when I say I've seen a lot of comics in my life. I've seen a number of collections in my life. I have never, ever in my life set foot in a place with a collection like this. It was like, it was all of the stuff that I love. One of the first things she said to me was, do you like Marvel and DC? I'm like, not particularly. I'm not the biggest fan. She's like, okay, well, because we do have one box of Marvel and DC. I'm like, now you're talking. And I think I said to her, I said, okay, great. Point me at that box so I know to avoid it. Because then I started thinking like, holy shit, if there's only one box of Marvel and DC out of about 40 short boxes, I wonder what's going to be in these other ones. And when I tell you that every single box was filled with pure gold, Daryl, combined, there was probably one short box that you could fill with just Richard Corbin stuff. And we're talking all of the stuff I have on the shelf here, newer editions of things like Bloodstar, all of kind of the soft cover collections. There's an underground Richard Corbin collection, all of the Den books in the kind of larger soft cover size. I could not believe Werewolf, a hardcover of the Richard Corbin Werewolf, and on and on and on, and the Fantagor Press stuff. I didn't look through every single box. I didn't look through every single comic in every single box. I just didn't have the time, but I looked at enough and took a few photos just for myself for reference to know that this is an incredible collection sitting here in Winnipeg, and it just boggles my mind that this kind of thing. Because so I was kind of chatting with them and saying, you know, where did he get these? Did he have a comic shop in town? I was wondering if maybe it was someone that I knew. No comic shop in town, was just a hardcore collector for a long time. And obviously into a lot of the things that I was into as well. There was a ton of Catalan communication stuff. There was a lot of kind of Milo Manara stuff. There was a lot of European stuff in there as well too. So this guy had incredible taste, a ton of underground comics. Like I said, including Oat Willie. There was an entire run of Zap Comics, an entire run of Weirdo, an entire run of Slow Death, entire run of Death Rattle, entire run of San Francisco Funny. Well, not an entire run of San Francisco Funnies, entire run of Love and Rockets. And when I was kind of asking about some of this stuff, she said, yeah, Love and Rockets, we'd never heard of before. And when we looked online, there's one that we pulled and kept it upstairs because they've got a few big ticket items upstairs that aren't part of this sale for the whole collection that they're going to look to sell separately. So it was a number one. It was the number one that they had self-published. So it wasn't the Fantagraphics number one. It was the Hernandez brothers self-published number one. This fucking guy had a copy of that. So I didn't see it. I didn't want to push. I didn't want to, I could only be there for a certain amount of time. We were going with the family this afternoon to go out and hang out together. So I just didn't have the time. Daryl D, I mean, if I was rich, I would have absolutely made an offer for the entire collection, 100%. But honestly, I started thinking about it. I wouldn't even know where to start with this. So some of the conversations I was having with her that were interesting, self-admitted that they just don't know a lot about comics, and just kind of talking to them in general, giving them some pointers on, like, they had been told they should approach some comic shops. And I said, honestly, it's up to you. It's your collection. I would say to be wary. Comic shops with a collection this size, they may only offer you like 25 cents an issue. Exaggerating, obviously. I said, I don't know what they would do, but the idea being that if you sell a collection like this all at once, you're really going to limit what people are able to pay, even comic shops. And I said, then you also have the thing of like this kind of stuff that your grandfather, it was one of the guy's grandfather, was who had passed away, whose collection this was. You also have to think of, like, this city just doesn't buy this stuff in bulk. I'm not saying there's nobody out here that buys it, because there's absolutely a bunch of us that are into this kind of stuff. It's just, it's not something that a comic shop, unless they're really set up online, they're not really going to have the ability to kind of sell themselves. She did hear from one comic shop, and she said his offer was so low that it kind of like, they just didn't even give it a second look. And again, I can understand both sides of it, right? Like, I can understand as a comic shop, you have to make some money. You have a lot of overhead, so you can only afford to offer a certain amount of money. But oh my God, I wouldn't even know where to start with how to price a collection like this. I just don't know how to tackle that. You have all of the issues of, where are you going to sell this stuff? You're going to have to sell a lot online. How are you going to price this stuff? I was giving her some tips on, when I sell, I always look at eBay as one of the sources, but I said it's important to search the sold listings. Don't just go for the listings that people are posting stuff at. Look at what people have actually bought the comics at. This guy had a copy of Fogel's Price Guide. He had a bunch of different Fogel's Price Guides, even the early ones that were in these kind of little more book-sized, amazing. So I pointed her to that book. I said, this will help you with determining the undergrounds, what printing you have, because that's really important with the undergrounds. First print versus 12th print of Freak Brothers #1 is going to be dramatically different in price, obviously. And to us, it's obvious, but to someone, it didn't seem like it was obvious. So it was really kind of nice to just sit and chat with them. It was this guy and his mom, and just kind of sitting and chatting with them about it. And, I did say, if you ever need any help, please give me a shout. I would absolutely be more than willing to help you out with this. It was just one of those things of sitting. I could have spent the rest of the day there just flipping through every box. There was so much good stuff. So what the deal was right away was, she had all of the boxes numbered, and basically you see a box that you like, afterwards kind of come to a decision, send the box number and then send your bid to her. And that's how she was going to run it. Because I was asking, is this going to be a thing of, can we make a box and make you an offer on a box? She said, not right now. They want to try this route and kind of go with the box bidding itself first. And then seeing how that goes, whatever's left, then they may do kind of like a garage sale. Or I was telling her about these small comic cons that are on in town where a table is fairly cheap to kind of rent and set up at a small comic show where guys are there just to buy comics. They're not there at like the pop culture event or whatever. So there was so much, it pained me walking away. I think I drove in the car and I was like, holy shit, like out loud to myself, because I've just never seen anything like this. The condition that these books were in were like they had just come off the shelf. They were pristine. This guy took care of his books. They were unbelievable. Like when I talk about like these books, these Corbin collections that he had, I mean, the ones I have are in great shape. They put mine to shame. They were so crisp, and it was amazing to just see this stuff and just see some books that I haven't seen in person, right? Like it was really, really amazing. It was like a mini museum kind of tour, but you actually got to flip through stuff, like not open up the comics. They were all bagged and things, but at least seeing the covers and holding these comics in your hand. He has a bunch of like Snatch, Robert Crumb Snatch. He's got quite a lot of Robert Crumb stuff, honestly. There was a box that was just Betty Page stuff. There was apparently some Marilyn Monroe stuff as well. I mean, you name it, it was there, man. When it comes to underground and alternative, she had, or this guy rather, had a whole bunch of Jam. And I think I pulled it out. I was like, holy crap, I'm actually just collecting this and reading this right now. And he had everything from the Jam, everything Jam related. So it was really just a stunner. And one of those times where I wish I was filthy fucking rich, that I could just give them a briefcase of money and take all of those books off their hands. So I did reach out to a guy locally that I've bought from before a bunch, just to say, hey, did you know that this collection was out there? He buys big collections. I sent him the link. He responded pretty quickly saying, as much as I'd love to, I'm just dealing with a collection right now. I can't, but thanks for the heads up. So my hope is that if somebody does end up buying the whole collection, and you happen to see this video, or I'm hoping that I can find out if someone does buy it, who they are, because whatever they don't want, I'd love to get my filthy, grubby collector hands on. There was a bunch of boxes of heavy metal. The other couple that was there, because there was only a few of us in this 1 hour slot, we kind of chatted as well too. They made an offer on all the heavy metal magazines that I didn't see. They kind of were writing and showing each other numbers and stuff. So I hope that deal went through, because he seemed pretty excited to. It was from number 1 till I don't even know how much. There was probably 4 boxes filled just with heavy metal magazine. So this guy, whoever he was, amazing taste. How the hell it got to Winnipeg is beyond me. The work he must have done to get this stuff. I don't know if he traveled. They talked about him a little bit. I didn't want to push. Just wanted them to talk about what they felt comfortable talking about. I don't know how fresh this loss is for them, so I didn't want to push too much, but I'm very curious about this guy's life and where this stuff came from and how it all ended up in Winnipeg. And it just also made me think of my own collection about when that time comes, what are they going to do with this stuff? Because it's not the easiest stuff to kind of like, hey, we'll just go down to the local comic shop and it's all Marvel and DC stuff and it'll be easy to sell. It's a bunch of weirdo shit as well too. Like, so I've got to start thinking about that going forward. What eventually will happen. Maybe it's just me when I get older selling it off myself, but I mean, you never know when that time is going to come, right? Not an estate sale, just a private sale. Hello, AFPC. Just a private sale. Family member passed away, and the collection, it appears that it was passed down to the grandson, which is really nice. He was talking about going to comic shops with his grandpa when he was younger, and that was kind of their thing. He's like, I like comics. I don't like them as much as my grandpa did, but it was just a really nice thing that we would do together, just the two of us. So really kind of a nice story as well too. Super nice people, incredibly nice people. But a hell of a collection. Still drooling about it. I'm probably going to dream about it for a few nights. I did place a bid for one box. I sent a message. So I placed a bid for one of the boxes, and we'll see how it goes. Obviously, they've got a lot more stuff to go through. I'm sure they've gotten a boatload of offers. So my fingers are crossed. I don't know if my price is going to be able to beat 15 other people, because I imagine each box is going to get a number of bidders if nobody comes to sneak the whole collection, of course. So good luck to them. And hopefully we can see some of those books here on the channel at some point. Fingers crossed. Anyway, that's my extreme nerd excitement out of the way. It was really fucking mind-blowing. So what did I read this week? I read a bunch of stuff. I ended up... So I have a bunch of comics that I sent into Lone Star already from the Usagi Yojimbo debacle. Not really a debacle, but when I contacted them, I think I said this on a stream, but I'm going to reiterate it in case I didn't. I want to give a huge shout out to Lone Star. They made good immediately. They gave me a full refund on this book and said, keep the book as a gift. Don't worry about sending it back to us. So they gave me a refund. So with that money that they refunded me, I turned that around. I packed up a box of comics and I sent it down to them. So basically using their money for the shipping. So they had a box of comics. And then just last week, I was going through some more stuff, going through the collection again. Actually went through magazine boxes and pulled some stuff out that I just didn't want anymore, and put together another huge trade for them. I think the estimate was $120 US is what the comics were worth in trade. Obviously, that depends on the condition. I am not a grader. I know very, very little about it, but I know enough to know that something is a 4.0 as opposed to an 8.0, but I couldn't tell you the difference between a 9.2 and a 9.8. I just couldn't tell you that difference, right? So my estimate is they were in the right range there. So they haven't received the comics yet. So hopefully when both of these go through, I'm looking at another couple of $100 worth of trade from Lone Star, which I'm pretty excited about, to kind of build another stack. There's a lot available on there right now. Every day I'm getting pings in my email from Lone Star. Stuff on my wish list is coming available. Some stuff that hasn't been available for a long, long time. So I'm kind of itching. I'll probably miss out on some of it, but that's the way that it goes, right? The point of telling you all that, while I was looking through comics, it just got me looking at stuff again and rereading some things that I hadn't either hadn't read or have read and wanted to revisit. And one of those that we'll start off with was this from Mr. Charles Vess that I got locally. Horns of Elfland by Charles Vess from Archival Press, 1977, something like that, maybe 1979 is when this is from. So stories copyright from 1979 and 1974. I think there is 4 stories in here, 3 stories in here. Here's the table of contents. And they were really, really great, kind of like fairy tales, fables, but with the Charles Vess kind of beautiful artwork to go along with them. It was the first, they had claimed it was the first print in the listing, and it was actually the second print. I normally wouldn't have bothered with it, but it was a bit expensive. Like I wouldn't normally spend $51 on a book like this. I just wouldn't. It's not impossible, but when I saw that it was a second print and they'd kind of sold it as a first print, that's kind of why I jumped on it, because a first print of the first volume of the, that Fantagraphics put out, it was something that I wanted in the collection. So I sent them a photo of the inside, sent them a screenshot of the listing, and just said, hey, normally it was the only reason I'm getting in touch is because this book was expensive. If it was second printing, I would have been fine with that. But I imagine the second printing price would have been lower than this. So I expected maybe to get a refund of, I don't know, $5 or something like that, or $10 in credit. But they instead just gave me a full kind of refund for it. So, Horns of Elfland, it was great to kind of sit with this again. Something that I'm just getting more in love with the older I get is the kind of those fairy tales and those folk tales, and like the Norse mythology series was such a favorite. The Storyteller is such a favorite book, and this really felt like it sat in that wheelhouse. It was maybe a little more towards like the kids fairy tale kind of spectrum, maybe a Brothers Grimm type of thing, but still kind of adult enough where it was an entertaining read. And again, like, Charles Vess's artwork is so beautiful. Shout out to Scott. I don't know if Scott watches these videos. Sometimes he pops up in the live stream. This first one was about a witch and these people's shadows in this town kind of getting away from them and kind of having a life of their own, which was really nice and presented more as kind of like an illustrated story. But god damn, the illustrations, man, beautiful stuff. And then the next story, we get a little more traditional kind of comic, The Demon's Sword, with a beautiful kind of opening splash page. I mean, look at that stuff, man. Really nice. But presented just kind of regular comic style with panels and all this. And I think the final story was more of the illustrated story book as well. So his style is so great to see. Even stuff like this, there's still at this point a little bit of off-kilter indie sort of wonkiness to some of the faces, but I still love that. I'm unsure what Charles Vess's first work was. That's out of the scope of my knowledge. This was really, this one was. It was nice to see him experiment with storytelling throughout these three, because all three stories are presented a little differently. This one kind of the text on one side and image on the other, that you get throughout the whole thing. So really, really great stuff. So it was one of the highlights of the week, actually reading this one again. So really glad that, again, it's the bonus of having the collection so accessible, having things on bookshelves right here, having the filing cabinets. The only thing that's not easy is right over here. It's these boxes. These are magazine boxes that are kind of stacked on top of each other. And the only reason they're there is because of space, right? I just don't have the space for everything. And that's the only thing. I just don't look through those magazine boxes enough. And it really feels like a part of my collection that's cut off from me. I keep trying to think of ways to rectify that, to have them kind of come out so I can access them better. I just haven't found a good strategy yet. Every once in a while, I look at like a smaller filing cabinet that could live right here. But the problem is there's a few boxes sitting beside me here. So then where the hell are those boxes going to go? So it's a never-ending issue of small space, big collection. But having everything so accessible, it was really nice to sit again this week and go through some stuff, go through the shelves, dig out those magazine boxes, have another look through the filing cabinet, and pull stuff out to read. That is a tight fit in that bag, so I'm not going to force it. I will deal with that afterwards. Close up that tape so it doesn't fuck anything up. They sent me the wrong printings in the past. When they make a mistake, they refund the cost plus shipping and just let you keep the book. Amazing. Vess's Spider-Man Spirit of the Earth is worth reading too. Okay, good to know. I will keep an eye out for that one. What else did I read? Since you're here, AFPC, you talked to me about WRAB, so let's talk Domes. Have you read Howarth's Domes? Because I just read it this week. This was a book that I got in the last My Comic Shop or Lone Star order, and I'd been there's a lot of books to go through, so it didn't make it through the first round of reading, but I finally sat with it. So it is Savage Henry, or Henri Savage. There's a write-up at the beginning by Michel Passman, who's a writer, and he talks about when he first discovered Savage Henry. he loved the character so much that he stole the character to write in some prose, but called him Henri Sauvage. And then Howarth loved that so much that he then stole it back. And this is a story of Henri Sauvage and his life as kind of like a spy. So a sort of James Bondy political intrigue story here. And it was great. It was really great. And as usual, the thing that impresses me the most about Howarth's stuff is his ability to kind of just throw in these moments where it's really kind of unique to him storytelling elements, or whether it's some sort of interesting artistic turn that you didn't really expect. I always love kind of this era of stuff for the contrast of kind of his minimalist kind of line work, but then you'll get something that really jumps off the page at you. He'll change up the style for a panel, or all of a sudden it'll be a spread where it's really highly detailed and dense. This is a great example of that. So it's just amazing stuff to read. I really, really enjoy. The more that I read, the more I'm just a huge fan of Howarth and all of his output. So this was so great. Really, really great to read. I don't know. Do I have the biggest Howarth collection in Canada? It's quite possible, but doubtful, I guess. But there you go. So that was Domes. Did I say what year this was? I don't think I did. Let's see if it's easy to find. This is 1985, published by Fantasy Press, Phantasy. And at the back, I saw an ad. The other beauty thing of dealing with some of these older comics is seeing the ads. Steel Pulse I'd heard of. I'm pretty sure that Jim Rugg talked about it once on Kayfabe, but this Acme Comics I'd never heard of, so I added it to my wish list at Lone Star. I think they had an issue or two in stock there as well too. The first name in fanzines. So an early kind of early-ish, well, maybe not early, but a fanzine nonetheless. It looks like it ran for, at this time, it was 6 issues, out of Denver, Colorado. Did they have a list of names? They didn't in this ad. It must have been in the listing on Lone Star. So it's great to kind of dive into these eras and see what else was being advertised, what else was being sold by these companies. Was there another ad? No, that was it. So yeah, there you go. Savage Henry, Domes, Henri Sauvage. Not a wrestling head, but Steel Pulse had some great single color covers. They really did. I've bookmarked. I think I put all of them on my wish list. Let me see. I sure have. I've read Video Hiroshima and Weird Fall. Yes, I have both of those and loved it. Video Hiroshima was great. Hiroshima, one of the better characters from the Post Brothers world. But yes, I've read both of those. You have Domes. Perfect. I figured as much. Let's put that down there. What else did you read? Well, I read book 4 of Batman Dark Age. I won't even take it out of the bag. Not much to say. Still really loving it. Another solid issue. We get into Dick Grayson in this one. And this also leads me to the, did anybody watch the new Batman animated series that is out? My son and I watched the first 6 episodes and loved it. I love it. I love it more than I thought I would. They're still kind of stick to a very certain style that that they kind of perfected throughout the Scan. I do have Scan as well. Yes, I do. I have that one as well. The style that they perfected throughout the run of that series, where Bruce Timm and company kind of streamlined the animation and the character design. The early stuff is fantastic, and it really is different than what it is now. And I absolutely adore the early stuff, but I still really like the later era stuff. The only thing that I don't like, and I've said this before, me and Rasa talking about some of the DC animated, They do something weird with the vehicles where it's all sort of CG, and they just feel really blocky, and they feel really awkward when they're moving on the screen. I don't expect them to be fluid by any stretch, but there's something about them that always just stands out where it kind of throws me out of it a little bit. The positive note about this new series is that they retain all of kind of like that classic Batman animated architecture. They keep a lot of the moodiness. The music is great. The storyline so far is really fantastic. They've changed a couple of things. They've changed designs of some of the villains. There's a villain that appears in is it episode 2 or 3? I don't remember. I think it was episode 2 that threw me, and I won't say more than that because I think it's a pretty solid episode. There's a Catwoman episode where it's probably one of my favorite Catwoman designs. She really kind of looks a little bit more like it's a mix of Batman animated and Batman Brave and the Bold. It's sort of this weird melding of those kind of designs into something very unique, and probably one of the better Batman episodes that I've ever seen. Brubaker is one of the executive producers, and he also wrote a couple episodes. I think, was it him and Bruce Timm that wrote one of the episodes, and then Brubaker on his own wrote the one after that. So that's an added bonus. Only 10 episodes, so we're almost done it. But if you're a fan of any of that Batman animated, I would point you at it. For me personally, it didn't disappoint. I know what kind of arguments we're going to get out there. I can hear it already. And to those of you, I don't care because I can hear it. Especially after the first episode, I can hear what kind of the comic book Illuminati are going to say about the problems that they had with that show. And I just don't care what you have to say about it because it's ridiculous and who gives a shit. And it's not yours. So I read Corny's Fetish from Renee French, a real thick book here. Another one where I'll only show you some of it. I think the story payoff is worth not spoiling. It's not a huge payoff, but it does kind of put an interesting twist on it at the end. I think one of the things that when you kind of build a name for yourself and when you have some work under your belt, you get the ability to subvert people's expectations. And I think Renee French has kind of done that here with this book. There's a level of creepiness all throughout this until kind of a certain point where things kind of take a bit of a turn. Doesn't negate any of the creepiness, like this old guy across the road spying on his neighbor and surreptitiously taking a photo and starting to build a little shrine to her. There's definitely a level of uncomfortableness with it, no doubt about it. But there's also kind of just a weird touching element to it, or maybe a sad element is also worth saying. Not to the level of kind of degeneracy and creepiness that Renee French, the little bit of stuff that I've read, from her in the past would kind of lead me to believe. So this is a hell of a book. I really enjoyed this one. Yeah, it's mostly a silent comic, except for some bits towards the end. And I really enjoyed every moment of it. Her art is so kind of clean. And again, like the ability to kind of have a level of creepiness in it, even though the art is pretty cartoony, I would say, is pretty damn impressive. And again, I think that goes with the expectations that you have of an artist. Hello, look at this, Gore Vidal. I assume you're talking about Batman. You should see it. Gore Vidal, give it a shot. Really, there's only 10 episodes. It's kind of classic TV length as well, too. I think each episode is roughly 22 minutes, roughly. It says longer, but you always have these long credit scenes at the end where they're talking about they're showing you the credits from different languages of the same show. So that takes up quite a bit of those minutes. So it's around 22 minutes an episode. So 6 was pretty easy for us to polish off. Bubby, yeah, man, it's great. If you don't know Renee French, have a look up her stuff. Really, really great. I'd recommend this one. So a flip cover on this one. We get Pete Bagg on one side, and we get, I don't know. What the hell is this guy? I actually just blanked on his name right now. That's insane to me. Fucking Brian Boland, for God's sakes. Brian Boland cover on the other side. So Savage Henry 6'9", 14, 20, and or 30. I honestly don't know which ones I'm missing. Let's pause for a moment here because I feel like this is going somewhere AFPC. So let me just check. Oh, I'm pretty sure I don't actually have those ones. Wasn't there Savage Henry? They were mini series, weren't they? AFPC. I thought that they were kind of separate to. I didn't know there was a long run of Savage Henry. How many issues was there of a Savage Henry series? Let me just have a brief little look here. Savage Henry Power Chords, I have issue 1. Savage Henry from Iconographics, I have number 1 to 3. But I thought that was only a mini series as well. 1994 Iconographics Savage Henry. I've got issues 1, 2, and 3 of that one. If that's the one you're talking about, I wasn't aware that it went on a long time. So there's your answer for that one. So Corny's Fetish from Dark Horse. Let's stick with Dark Horse because I also read a chunk of, I still have the last issue to finish, or the last issue that I have anyway. I've got a bunch of, let me take this down. I've got a bunch of hard looks from Andrew Vax and company. I know that Gore Vidal had ordered this entire run. So number 1, we've talked about before. I read number 2, number 5, and number 6. And then I've got number 7 that I haven't read yet. And it was due to this. I didn't bring those down. They're upstairs. It was due to this and some of the write-ups in the back that got me looking for a couple of other Andrew Vax and just Dark Horse books. One of them being a 4-issue miniseries called Underground. So I found 3 issues of that one, 2, 3, and 4. That looks like it has quite a lot of prose as opposed to just straight comics. But again, it's more Andrew Vax stuff. I don't know if it's all adapted from other people or if it's literally just his writing. I haven't had that close of a look in it yet. But it always, it never ceases to amaze me looking through some of these books and finding these cheaper books and looking through the ads. And even a company like Dark Horse that we've talked about before, it's amazing how much they've put out over the years that there's still stuff that you've just never heard of. It's hard for me to kind of pick a standout in these because I think this is probably right up there as kind of one of my favorite series that I think I've read. I'm love every single issue. It's really hard to pinpoint a specific reason, but I can tell you for sure the black and white art in this is absolutely essential to this storytelling. The grittier, the better. The stories that worked less for me were the ones that had a level of polish to them. And by polish, let's see if we can find an example of what I'm talking about. That's a bad example because this is fucking fantastic. This is David Lloyd doing a story in here. We're looking at issue number 6, the kind of animal issue. The stories revolve around animals to one degree or another. So this is a flash of white. So maybe a bad example because that one still sets a really good mood with David Lloyd's art. Yeah, this story called Mad Dog. So this is a better example. Mad Dog, who did the art in this one? Tom Artis, inks by John Beatty, letters by Ken Holwinzinski. Nothing wrong with this art. I like it. I just want it to be grittier and want it to be kind of rougher around the edges, you know? Rougher around the edges than this is, because as good as this whole book is and all of these books are, the ones that knock it out of the park for me are these real just lines that are like chiseled onto the page or have just such unbelievable character to them. Like this fucking story, man, Jesus Christ, this guy, this one story is probably a highlight for me out of this read. This is from issue number 5. This is a solid issue. This child molester going to court and being told that he's got to serve some time at this institution where they're going to cure him of this kind of ailment, I guess, for lack of a better word. I don't remember what the words are they use in there. So like that page is really great, especially as he's reliving and talking about these kids. It's just extra fucking creepy. A hell of a good story. Again, these all they've got such great payoffs. I just don't want to talk about them too much because all of them, I think, work in one way or another as this really brutal kind of look at kind of the world of crime and the world of these fucking not really good people. This is a solid story as well too. I'll find you the artist's name in just one second, but check that panel out. That is Drive-By, art by Gary Gianni. Right? Is that the last story? Yes, it is. Yeah, that's Drive-By for sure. So solid stuff. So if you don't know Hard Looks, if you don't know Andrew Vack's Hard Looks, highly recommended from Dark Horse. And like I said, I just haven't read this issue yet. Whenever the next order it gets placed at my comic shop, I'll be throwing some more of these in the basket and hopefully being able to complete this run sooner than later. Such a good dark read, man. Like, it's not a happy read, I'll tell you that much. AFPC says, okay, cool. Those issues are a continuation of the iconographic series after it moved to Vortex, I believe. Oh, okay, good to know. So Vortex, a Vortex run. At my shop, a collector is looking for original Lloyd V for Vendetta artwork. He's been traveling across the country. He said some original pages have sold for $40,000. Wow. It doesn't surprise me at all, but holy shit. That's dedication, driving around the country looking for it. Great article on Gorvidal's shop. He's talked about his shop in the stream, so hopefully it's okay for me to mention this. He sent me a copy of an article that was talking about his comic shop. Really great to see that. Again, like, it's so encouraging to see that there are people that are getting into some of these businesses that appear to me to have a genuine love for not only the comics and the medium themselves, but also understand the importance of this creating an environment and a place for your customers, and who I think some of them end up becoming friends, or at least friendly-ish. It's one of the things that old guys like me really miss. I miss going down every weekend to the record shop and hanging out with the guys and talking shit. I miss going down to Movie Village to rent movies and talking with people there and talking shit. I miss going, like, the list goes on and on. That was a big part of going out and participating in these things, like going to the comic shop and talking to people, going to the record shop and talking to people, not only the people that work there, but going with friends. It became such a thing that it just really was like a light switch here in Winnipeg, where all of a sudden, all of these places seemed to shut down almost at the exact same time. Pre-pandemic, the pandemic kind of put the final nail in the coffin for some of the places, but there was a whole bunch of them that had closed before the pandemic even hit. It's just something that wasn't, we're now left with, I think there's like a couple of record shops in town, not nearly as much as there used to be. There's still comic shops. Thankfully, not all the comic shops have closed, but movie rental places, I'm sure it's the same everywhere. There's really nothing around anymore where you can go and rent movies. So all of that becomes kind of part of that culture and part of that experience, right? It's a unique shop. Never visited one quite like it. It's like the YouTube community we have here. Imagine all of us at the comic shop and hanging there for hours at a time. That would be something, man. Hopefully there wouldn't be too many fist fights. But yeah, no, I can absolutely understand where you're coming from that. Strange Tales, the final issue in the first volume. Not too much to say about this. It's good to kind of finish off this run. There was 2 mini-series of kind of modern strange tales that were done by a host of kind of independent artists. This one has Stan Sakai in it. Pete Bagg does a story in here as well. The Stan Sakai story, of course, is fantastic. It's a Hulk story. It reads just like Usagi would and anything else that I've read of Stan. So no big surprise there. It was quality. As usual, there's a couple that didn't really work for me. This one didn't really work for me. Longshot and Dazzler, I think, is the other character in this story. The art was nice enough, but I didn't honestly get into it very much, other than, hey, that coloring looks cool. Jeffrey Brown, this is a nice kind of surprise. My daughter and I have been reading some Jeffrey Brown together. So this was nice to kind of see in there. A pretty funny little story about the Fantastic Four playing pranks on people. But when Ben Grimm decides to play a prank, it goes a little overboard and he trashes someone's car. So really great. And let's see, this one was a standout. And who is this? Chris Chua, Chua. I don't know what the hell this story is. I don't know what characters this was about, but I fucking loved trying to decipher the mystery of this particular comic here. Amazing art with kind of storytelling that sort of follows even the paths of some of the characters that are on it. I mean, I think that's Red Skull in there. I think I saw Wolverine in here at some point. I'm sure there was Hulk. I'm sure there was Captain America, but I couldn't really tell you too much of what was going on in here. I mean, look at these pages, man. Like, that's kind of outstanding. I love, again, like the pulling back and squinting your eyes just a little bit. It's beautiful. Really, really beautiful stuff. So a name that I'm going to have to look into a little more. So great to finish off that run. Another one I would suggest, if you like any sort of independent comics or you have some Marvel heads who don't know some of these artists, this is a kind of a great way to introduce them into a whole new world of artists. I can't imagine there's anybody that doesn't know who Stan Sakai is, but if you have those Marvel fanatics, that's a good book to point them towards in any of these series. Yeah, it is great fun. I remember Pope, Shaw, Kolchaka, and Santoro stories being great. Yes. Besides Chadwick's Concrete, I haven't been reading other comics. Been reading a couple of novels and watching a lot of movies. Oh, nice. Last night I watched A Month in the Country, Bring It On, and Hannah. Oh, Hannah and Her Sisters right there. Bizarro Comics walked, though, so Strange Tales could run. Yes. And Bizarro Comics, I saw a collection of it online a few months ago, and I just forgot I didn't have a chance to jump on it. It was from one of the shops in town where it was just a collection of all that, and I'd love to read it because I've heard good things about that as well, too. What else did I read? Sacrificers, which I'm going to wait and talk to Rasa about. Did I show this one last week already during the Sunday wrap? I don't remember. Finished off Connie and Kazoo. I feel like we talked about this one last week, so I'm going to put that down. So more Matt Howarth. I feel like these last few that are here are ones that we spoke about already. Yes, they all are, because I was waiting I had them saved here so Ross and I could talk about some of them in more detail. So I guess that's all that I read. I thought there was more. It felt like there was a lot more that I read. What is this stack here? To be read. I should get rid of that book. Yeah, I guess that's all. Thanks very much, everybody. Nice to see you all. I don't know if we're going to be back to do a Sunday chat next week. Me and Rasa, we'll see about schedules and see how things line up. Yeah, with work starting up and all that good stuff, time is going to be a little more limited. Hopefully, we'll see. Fingers crossed. Need some goddamn paychecks coming in. So thanks very much for hanging out. Fingers crossed that I do end up being able to snag some of those comics from the collection I saw. I'm going to try not to kill myself too much dreaming about them, but maybe that's the best way to deal with it. Take it easy, everybody, and we'll talk to you later.